The Seattle Kraken are headed to Edmonton and probably playing a little meatloaf. Yes, I will explain exactly what I mean coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Erica L. Ayala, once again coming to you live from, I'm here in real time, but this will be a recording for you. I'm in Miami, and I brought the UMA hat. As one of our loyal listeners, Striatic, has mentioned, the UMA hat traveling has been pretty good. And so we're going to roll with it. And we have a lot to talk about. So we're just going to get into it. Today's episode, though, of the Locked On Kraken podcast is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, so for those of you who maybe do not know, there is a power ballad by Meatloaf. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And why are we talking about 2 out of 3? Well, to begin, the Seattle Kraken have won 2 out of their last 3 games, which is exactly what Dan Bylsma wants them to be able to do. We talked about it. 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. That's where this team wants to be. And that's what they've been able to do. Now, we did win the game against Pittsburgh, but for me, it was kind of a sleepy game. Neither team really got anything going in the first period. Also, it was Kids Day. I thought having some young people as a part of the broadcast was super cool. Although I wanted more, I forgot to write his name down. But the young guy in the booth, I wanted more from him. Harvey, was it? Harvey, Henry, I think something like that. Anyway, despite it being a little bit of a sleepy game, things didn't really start ramping up until the second period. The Seattle Kraken scored 2 goals in the second frame, 2 goals in the third frame to get the win. And once again, we have goals, a power play goal, Vince Dunn getting a power play goal. Matty Beniers got a nice goal, great feed by Capo Caco. Ellie Tolvanen, I think, had a really fantastic game. And Jared McCann had 2 assists. And Chandler Stephenson did return to the lineup. And I know the scheduling, and this is on me, got a little bit wonky, but I did send out to our insiders, are we stock up or stock down on Chandler Stephenson? Now, of course, I set that up, and he's actually had not only some pretty good games, but then he got a little banged up, so I was a little worried. I'm like, are we going to talk about the guy? And then, he's not doing so well. But here's the consensus. One of the comments, stock up, but it's a dead cat bounce. So effectively something that's not going to last. And then another comment that we got is that Allison put it well. He can be frustrating to watch because it doesn't look like he's engaging. When he's producing, it's easy to accept, but when he's not, even easier to point out a lack of effort. And I agree with that. Zame and I have talked about that. I will say, in the Pittsburgh game and in other games since, of course, I put out the stock up, stock down, I do think we've been seeing a little bit more from Chandler Stephenson. Now, I would love to know, really, really know what conversations have been had in the Seattle Kraken locker room. I don't know if it was full on ultimatums, we will scorch the earth if we don't get it together, or was it more positive? Was it a little bit of middle of the road? I would love to know, because we've been talking for 2 months, 3 months on what they maybe should talk about, what they could talk about, what they have been talking about. But Chandler Stephenson, to me, seems to be a little bit more focused and locked in. And so I think we're all stock up with an asterisk, stock up with an ellipse. We're stock up question mark. Will it last? I asked you that, 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago? Will it last? This team has to show us. Chandler Stephenson, I think, also has to show us. But you know who has been showing us is the one and only Matty B. Matty Beniers. It is 2025, the year of Beniers. I love that conversation with Jessica Campbell. I love that she told me that she and Matty have decided 2025 is going to be his year. And again, he scores in this game. Now, the Seattle Kraken, they were one of three on the power play, including having a 5-on-3. So, the power play, it still has its ups and downs. There was someone in the scrum asking specifically what Jessica Campbell was doing, or if her execution, or if her game plan was properly executed. And I think everyone kind of maybe skirted around the answering the question directly. Now, I think there's a few ways you could look at that. But the most detailed response that we got, I believe, was from Dan Bilesma, and him just saying that because if I remember correctly, it was part of the 5-on-3 where the Kraken scored. And it's all about movement and filling in and occupying those spaces, which again is something that I've talked to you about on this show a bunch. And that's just when you have a sport like hockey, like basketball, like soccer, the team that can occupy the empty space, that can do the passive motion when they don't have the ball, the puck, whatever, they are more often than not going to be the team that can be successful. And I think we're starting to see the Seattle Kraken occupy space. Oh my goodness, the passing. I know I talked about it a few episodes ago. The passing has been phenomenal. And you need good passing in hockey, especially. Sure, you need it in soccer. Of course, you need it in basketball. But for some reason, I think it's like the sliding motion on the ice, the way the game moves so fast. Passing in hockey is chef's kiss. Bad passing is like nails on a chalkboard. Excellent elite passing is like a hot knife through butter. And the Seattle Kraken looked good. I loved it. Like I said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Didn't get the win against Washington. Ovi did get a goal, but it was an empty net goal. So good job, Joey Daccord. And kind of speaking about Joey Daccord, people are starting to ask, he's played the last 6 games, something like that. Is it too much? Man, it almost sounds like people are starting to listen to Locked On Kraken, because we talk about this not just with Joey Daccord, but with Kraken goaltenders. And almost always, with exception of Philip Grubauer, a few stretches, we're always talking about the goaltender with Philip Grubauer. I'm not going to get into that now because it's a game day. But let's talk a little bit about, does Joey Daccord need rest, and what is Joey saying about it? That's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. I love that FanDuel also is incorporating more women's sports. If you listen to the Women's Hockey Report, which we actually record on Fridays, but it goes live on Saturdays for y'all, then we start integrating the odds. Of course, today also is a game day for your Seattle Kraken. So, FanDuel right now has Seattle plus 1.5 against Edmonton today. That's the spread. And if you look at the money line, the Seattle Kraken are plus 235 compared to minus 295 for Edmonton. So you can find everything really that you need over on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Hey, thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here. And, I want us to talk about Joey Dax a little bit. If we take a look at the stats in this game, he had some pretty tough saves that he had to make. He was your first star at Climate Pledge Arena on Kids Day. I love his energy. Come on, let's go. I feel like, every time he's getting ready to yeet the fish, his energy is almost exactly the same. But in a good way, like I don't feel like it's forced. I feel like he likes winning and he likes sharing the win with the crowd. He had a save percentage of .966 last night, just gave up the one goal. This was, and it was to Sidney Crosby. That was early in the second frame. As I mentioned, no one scored in the first. And I think Joey Daccord, we talk about it all the time. He has been an anchor. Everyone who was asked about Joey said, not just Joey, but goaltending. I thought that was very, a good show of just team camaraderie, that even though they were asked about Joey Daccord, of course, he was the goaltender that started again. That also, they made sure to point out Philip Grubauer and what he's had to do. Now, I think that there's a different conversation to be had with Philip Grubauer, as I've alluded to. But I think that, again, we are relying a lot on Joey Daccord. I do think that this team has made a point to not do that as much. And so maybe that is the conversation, right? Maybe the conversation is, hey, we're putting a lot on our goaltenders. If you don't like that fact, then here are some of the things that you have to do. Forechecking has been something more aggressive, more block shots. A lot of the guys talked about the block shots. So, I think that they're really trying. They're really trying to get some things going here. And I think also the accountability has stepped up. So, that being said, still overall a lot for Joey Daccord. It's still overall a lot of games, but Joey, he had his say and he likes that he's getting all of the games. He, he said most goaltenders, if you ask them, they probably also like getting a lot of starts. So, he's not feeling any one way about it, but I do think that it's something that will be interesting to see who starts tonight, because we know we have Anaheim tomorrow. So it's a back-to-back. If I had to guess, especially knowing, what's I gotta learn how to speak. I promise I do this for a living. What's at stake, what's in store, 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4. That's the goal for the Seattle Kraken. They need points. And one of the young reporters that was at postgame asked everyone, what are your goals for the next handful of games before the Four Nations break, which of course is effectively the All-Star break this year? And they're talking about racking up points. That's what everyone wants to do. With that in mind, even though Joey Daccord has started the last, like I said, 6 or so games, I think you put Joey in net. Anaheim, in theory, on paper, we should be able to beat Anaheim. We know we're going to see Philip Grubauer on a back-to-back. Maybe, give him that Anaheim game. That's just my guess. I don't know. I'm traveling, so I haven't heard, at least at the time that I'm recording this, of who perhaps might be starting, but that's probably what I would do. Am I worried about overuse for Joey? He seems happy. He seems content. The team is playing better in front of him. And yes, I'm always worried. I always talk about overusing our goaltenders because it has been true every season. There's one goaltender that gets more work than they were anticipating. We've been trying to do an equitable split or whatever in net since the inaugural season, and it has never happened again. I don't think it's responsible for me to talk about that without acknowledging that the one constant goaltender between all of that is Philip Grubauer. And again, I don't have anything against Philip Grubauer. I like the guy. I really do. And the Philip Grubauer that we've had in Seattle has not been consistent. The team hasn't been consistent. And I've said time and time again, just like what we're saying right now with Joey Daccord, just like what I said with Martin Jones, this Seattle Kraken team historically, well, maybe that too, historically puts too much on their goaltenders. This is not Grant Fuhr of the Edmonton Oilers, baby. You need to play defense. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent as I am wont to do when we start talking about goaltending and defense. Of course, I'm worried. I'm concerned. Long term, big picture. And so, actually, I think this is good, this back to back, because my take on it is that right now, Philip Grubauer doesn't have the confidence of, not the full confidence of his coaching staff. Now, he might have it from his teammates, but I don't know if he has it from the coaching staff. And it kind of feels like this isn't something that just sparked. That last outing was pretty bad. Joey just coming back. We talked about it, right? He wasn't getting long stretches. He was getting a game here, a game there. And as Joey Daccord said after the Pittsburgh game, most goaltenders, they want to get a lot of starts. And as Zame and I have talked about, and I've also talked about this with some people from, the Kraken media corps, Philip Grubauer seems to be a guy that the more you play him, the better he will be. But the Kraken have not been able to rely on that because he hasn't been our starting netminder. He's been injured a handful of times, and there have been times, like with Martin Jones and now with Joey Daccord, where the quote-unquote backup goaltender has been just, sometimes it's very nominal, very small margins, but has been the more consistent, reliable goaltender. And the Kraken have to figure that out. What's the long-term future for Philip Grubauer with the Seattle Kraken if that's going to be the case? So as much as I said, hey, are we worried about Joey Daccord? I don't know if that's the right question. I mean, it is, because yes, I'm worried about it. But maybe the question that hasn't been answered, which is why we are quote unquote potentially overusing Joey Daccord, is because we don't know what we're going to get from Philip Grubauer. I don't like saying it, but again, it feels like a negligence as someone who's covering the Seattle Kraken to not at least mention it and put it out there as a question. What is the answer? I surely don't know. We've seen goalie trades in the NHL. None of them have been with the Seattle Kraken. But and people say, oh, these are not really big contracts. Well, in the grand scheme of the Seattle Kraken cap and comparative to the output in live games, you kind of look at that contract and you're like, what's good in the layer, in the deep? I don't know. So yes, I'm worried about Joey Daccord. And again, we've talked about this with Zame. What happens if Joey Dax gets injured again? He has to miss some time. We're going 2 out of 3 minimum. That's the aim. Can Philip Grubauer still help ensure that? Oh, goaltending. It's like an evergreen topic with us. We're always talking about goaltending on the Seattle Kraken, Locked On Kraken show. So I don't have any answers, but Joey is feeling good. The vibes are pretty good. And this is what I love. And I believe it was, yes, our good friend Allison Lucan. She wasn't the only one, but she used a term, which I will repeat, pissed offedness, that Winnipeg game. And we talked about it on the show. The year of Beniers, Matty Beniers, was not, he was PO'd, right? He was the piss offedness meter was pretty high, but he was so direct and so convicted in, we have to, and we will learn from this. And that 2 out of 3, turning 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, kind of started happening around that time. But again, it's not just about the result. It's about how the team has played to earn those results. And again, I liked most of what we saw in that Winnipeg game. And if anything, it's like we did almost everything. We were like almost to where we want to be, but we left some in the tank. Pittsburgh, again, it was a little bit of a sleepy game here and there, but it was responsible. For the most part, it was a responsible game. For the most part, because again, Joey Daccord did have to put some work in. But the piss offedness, right? The team is locked in and focused right now. And I think that's huge, especially given that they're going to play Edmonton tonight and Anaheim tomorrow. And these are division games. These are important games in that 2 out of 3. Need to get these games. And it's an opportunity for some guys to step up, and including Philip Grubauer. So I think we see him tomorrow, but I guess we'll find out. Coming up next on Locked On Kraken, I'm going to give you the keys to the game because we got Edmonton coming up, and it's a big one. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Select Quote. In sports, having a winning strategy, is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, which is coming up, the World Series, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and of course, the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. Select Quote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. And as one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets Select Quote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer a one-size-fits-all policy or policies, they have Select Quote has licensed agents that can tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for a same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Select Quote, they shop and you save. All right. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here, rocking the Uma hat, because why not? Seattle Kraken taking on the Edmonton Oilers. Here's what we got. We've played Edmonton the last time we played them 4-2 in favor of, Edmonton. We will play them tonight, January 27th, and then we play them twice in March. This team is, pretty loaded. Pretty loaded. They right now are sitting at 31, 15, and 3. Leon Draisaitl, 9 points in the last 5 games. Our highest scorer is McCann with 5 points, all of those assists. Draisaitl has 4 goals in his last 5 games. Jaden Schwartz has 3 in his last 5. And McCann, again, has those 4 assists. Or, excuse me, yes, 5 points, 4 assists. But Leon Draisaitl, he's kind of good. He's kind of good. Our collective save percentage, 891. 917 belongs to Joey Dax. 870 belongs to Philip Grubauer. So we're at 891, 897 collectively for the Edmonton Oilers, a 902 save percentage for Stuart Skinner, and Calvin Pickard with an 899 save percentage. This is where things are going to get interesting. Power play for both teams. The Edmonton Oilers, super strong power play, 7th in the NHL. To 24th for the Seattle Kraken at 18.8% clip. The face-off wins 52.5% for the Oilers. I do think that's where Stephenson has stepped up. Stevie, Beniers, right? They've stepped up there, but 52.5% from the dot for the Oilers, 48.6%, which is 25th So the margin, right? Small. 3.31 goals for. 6th overall in the National Hockey League compared to 2.92 goals per game for the Seattle Kraken, 18th overall. We have a 312 goals against average, 22nd in the NHL, 2.71 for the Edmonton Oilers, 7th. So this is a good team. Obviously, we're 5-5 in our last 10. They're 7-3, including wins over. Well, we've both gotten wins over Buffalo. And then that's pretty much where the overlap ends. We've both played Washington and lost most recently. Oh, the LA Kings as well. Both of us got wins in those last 10 against the LA Kings. You know, we played Winnipeg that I just mentioned, Columbus, New Jersey, and Detroit. They lost to Washington, Vancouver, and Pittsburgh, who we just played and beat. So, you know, for this game, I loved getting our defensemen involved. I love the focus and attention to detail on the just blocking shots overall, but especially on the penalty kill. I love the passing for the Seattle Kraken. The things that we have to be able to execute is to be able to be the aggressors. It's something that Dan Bosma says all the time that we don't always see from the Seattle Kraken. They have the capability, but we don't always see this Seattle Kraken team go and command control of the game by playing their game. I think Kaapo Kakko that's why Schwartz and Beniers are having success, because Kaapo Kakko, he's got great size, he's got great vision and IQ. He can make things happen. And honestly, on that, so like my first note is go get the game, be the aggressors. And like my 1A to that is I want to see Kaapo Kakko maybe take his shot and not set people up, you know, because sometimes a guy like Kaapo Kakko has to shoot every once in a while so that the other team doesn't have in their head, oh, he's going to pass, he's going to pass, he's going to pass. No, shoot every once in a while and remind them who you are. So I would love Kaapo Kakko to really get some more goals in these these next handful of games. I think number 2 for me is it's going to be the 3 Fs. Leaning into the forecheck, I think, is a part of why the Seattle Kraken are starting to meet success. You have to, and it kind of goes with number 1, go get the game means you have to go get the puck. Winning the board battles, winning the face-offs, the puck battles, and that comes from aggressive forecheck. Oh my gosh, what game was it? That beautiful back check by Kaapo Kakko sets was that the Beniers goal or one of the Schwartz? I think it was the Beniers goal. Either way, Kaapo Kakko. I mean, this dude is like a younger, bigger, bulkier Oliver Bjorkstrand, because Ollie has that in his game too. So I love it. Bjorkstrand did score in that Pittsburgh game. So the 3 Fs, we're talking about forechecking. We're talking about playing fast and, you know, have some fun with it too. Fun, fast forechecking. And sometimes I add that 4th F, which is to play free, have fun. I think these guys, a few more wins, and I think they can have some fun with it. We did hear from Vince Dunn that this is the family trip. So the families are going to be on the road, which I think makes sense because they go, you know, to Anaheim. Hopefully some of the families can stick around for both games. So I think there will be a little bit of levity and some fun, hopefully, in this game. You go from kids game to family trip to a home game at CPA. I like it. So get the game, go get the game early, and Kaapo Kakko, give us some goals. 3 Fs always, fun, fast, forechecking. And again, you know, adding that 4th one, have fun, play free. I should say free. You know, don't overthink it. And you know, the starts are always important. Get some giddy up early. That goes probably with point number 1. But, you know, this is a good team. This is a good Oilers team. You can't take your foot off the gas. It doesn't have to be perfect for 60, but you have to give 100% of whatever you have in the tank. No shifts off. No shifts off for the Seattle Kraken. And let's see what we can do again, that Pittsburgh team just beat Edmonton and we've beaten Pittsburgh. So you never know what you're going to get. And again, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Meatloaf, go look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Hey, enjoy the game. I'm here in Miami. I've got a few women's basketball responsibilities, but I will be back on the microphone later tonight, one way or another. Hopefully, I'll be wearing this Uma hat. It's very apropos for Miami, not because like people walk around with pirate hats in Miami or literally anywhere else, but I'm by the water. I'm feeling it. The nautical vibe, right? Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. If you have some sunshine, enjoy that. If not, I'm sorry. And of course, as always, hold fast, stay true. Let's go, Stevie. Let's go, Capo. And let's go, Kraken. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.